Now batting
This is the big one.
your third baseman, Trevor Blue Duran. Oh! Hello and welcome to maybe the most anticipated TPP of the year. It's your 19th ranked Minnesota Twins, don't you know? 82 and 80 last year, fourth in the AL Central. Let's DirecTV rewind it. And if you're ready to transform your baseball watching experience, head to directv.com/JohnBoy or scan the QR code on the screen to learn more. Trev, this team banged when they were out there, man. 10th in runs, 11th in OPS. The starting pitching, a great whip, but a bad ERA. The bullpen with a mixed grab of numbers. And Trev, it was kind of a mixed bag a year for your Minnesota Twins. Who's new in town?
It was a disappointing year. Let's just not
Okay.
sugarcoat it. 2024 was not what I believe a lot of people expected to happen. So let's get into it. They did add some people, not a lot. The Twins are one of the teams who pretty much throughout the offseason hadn't done anything. And then, right before the buzzer, they filled the holes they needed to fill. That's the bottom line. They bring in Harrison Bader on a 1 year, $6.25 million deal. He is going to be kind of, the backup outfielder. He's going to play a little bit of center at times. He play a little bit of left field at times. They also brought in a lefty reliever in Danny Colomb. He comes 1 year, $3 million. They needed a lefty reliever. Got one. And then Ty France is going to fill that kind of Carlos Santana role, which is from last year. He's one of the few bright spots on the Twins. So those are big shoes to fill, but the Frenchman will have to do it. Rocco's already been talking about him playing a lot, not just being a guy to platoon with Miranda. So we'll see how that works out. They also traded for Gio Cartaya, the catcher for the Dodgers. Was one time a huge big prospect with the Dodgers. Husker Yanoa comes over on a minor league deal. Mike Ford, Erasmo Ramirez, kind of some blast from the past names there. They also exercise Jorge Alcala's option. He's had some ups and downs in the bullpen, but can be very, very effective when he's on. So those are the people that they added or brought back. Jake, who'd they lose?
Man, you mentioned Carlos Santana. He put together such a fun season last year at first base. He stays in the division with Cleveland. Max Kepler, your handsome German, he's now in Philly. And your guy, Kyle Farmer, went to the Rockies. And so they lost a little bit of glue there, Trev.
Yes.
Couple arms, Tealbar, Oker, Richards, Castillo, Winder. How about Manny Margot, Coach Ballgame's favorite postseason platoon outfielder to watch? And Trev, I think if you look at this lineup when it's healthy, I think you're looking in a liking.
The lineup has plenty of potential. Now, Twins did hire like a whole new hitting staff. Those guys who I actually enjoyed, they're gone. They bring in some new coaches who have been emphasizing situational hitting so far in spring training.
Wow.
First couple rounds of BP going the other way. We'll get into those storylines. But yes, the lineup, they were set. That's what I kept telling people. The Twins didn't have to make a bunch of moves. Could they have made a splash at first base? Yes. But other than that, they have a set lineup of guys that they really like. So I wasn't super nervous when they weren't making moves. Willie Castro is a guy that can kind of play everywhere. So he'll be somewhere in that lineup. Carlos Correa, obviously, at shortstop. I believe the plan is still to have Royce Lewis at third base. They were talking about moving him to second base. I did not like that move. I think this is better. Matt Wallner, the Minnesota Moose. He'll be in right field. It hits the ball harder than almost anybody in the big leagues. Byron Buxton, please stay healthy in center field. Trevor Larnach out there in left field. Jeffers behind the plate. Frenchman Ty France at first base. And then Brooks Lee, kind of the wild card. How's he going to perform? I like him a lot. Baseball rat. He'll be at second base to start the year. I think it is going to be a storyline, though. On the bench, Harrison Bader, my guy Eddie Julian.
Mm.
He is in a interesting year as well, kind of a prover year. I believe he'll be on the bench to start the year. Jose Miranda, who like should be playing every day, not sure where that's going to shake out, and then Christian Vasquez as well. They have Austin Martin in the wings. Guys I mentioned, Deshaun Kersey, Mike Ford, but that's the lineup, which has a ton of potential. I think the pitching staff is underrated. Jake.
Okay. Well, a guy who's probably properly rated at the top, Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan, leading the way there is a nice 1-2 punch. Um, Pablo struggled a little bit last year, but he found it. Joe Ryan, that rising fastball, essentially can't touch it. Bailey Ober, the nightmare, kind of had his breakout year. And then at the bottom of the rotation, interested to see how it goes with Simeon Woods Richardson, Chris Paddock, the sheriff, and then David Festa and your boy Zebby Matthews. Don't let those Twins starting pitchers get late in the game; they'll mow you down. And then that can feed a fun bullpen of Duran closing it out. He had a funky year. Griffin Jacks, Cole Sands, Brock Stewart. Wow. Jorge Alcala, Danny Colom comes in as the lefty. And how about back up the Tonkin truck? He comes back to beautiful Minnesota. That's Minnesota hot, people. Watch out for Topa, Thunderbunk. Oh, God. These Twins, hey, I'm going to dish the rock. You tell me where we're going.
I think the biggest thing, well, health, but you can say that about anyone, so we won't even talk about that. I think the biggest thing is getting this team rolling like collectively, not like having the pitching going and the offense coming up lame or vice versa. That's kind of what the story of their 2024 season was when they were hitting, they weren't really pitching. When they were pitching, they weren't really hitting. They just never really lined up together. And sometimes you have years like that where it just doesn't mix. But again, this is, I believe a lot of the projections have the Twins winning the Central, which, obviously we've done one other AL Central team, and it was the White Sox. So I believe the Royals and the Tigers and the Guardians, our fans have ranked above the Twins, which I don't think is that fair and necessity, because this team does have the potential to be really good. If you just look, the lineup has the potential to hit. They have righties and lefties. Their starting pitching is very consistent, I would say. I wouldn't put them like upper echelon, even though some of the statistics will put them there. I would say they're more like they're not gonna lose the season for you. And then the back end of the bullpen can be one of the best in baseball. Like when these guys are on, you're talking about Duran, Griffin Jacks. I put Brock Stewart right in the mix there. He was hurt last year, but it's just they have to put it together. They have to be on the field. And some things they didn't do last year well, they're putting an emphasis on. Now, they struck out like a lot at the beginning of last year, and I was sitting in the broadcast booth being like, man, we just don't want to be like this guy, but like there has to be a two-strike approach, and there are times where you just got to take a little bit less, put the ball in play, put pressure on the defense, and they weren't doing that at the beginning of the year. They started to kind of figure it out later in the year, and that has been a big emphasis for them. Those are the reports in spring training. There's a bunch of mandatory work now that like these guys never like hit BP last year. It was crazy to see. Like they were always in the cage. Nobody was out there kind of putting the work in on the field, and it felt very new school. And that was kind of like, man, all right, like that's what we're doing here. It's new school, whatever. They're getting rid of that, dude. Like they're all out there together, like running these drills together. And that's a Carlos Correa led thing. Like he's saying, fuck it. Like, I don't want to play on a team like that again. I want to make the playoffs. This is what we have to do. I think that's huge. And I think Rocco letting that happen and being like, you guys do it, I think is the best thing that he can do as a manager. So some things hopefully will get cleaned up. Some sloppy defense, situational hitting. I think, if they put an emphasis on those things, could be cleaned up. X factors. Like, if this team's going to win 95 games, it's Byron Buxton and Royce Lewis. Can they stay on the field, be healthy? Because they are absolutely difference makers, Jake.
Yes, I mean, Buxton is what it is at this point, and I feel like they've done some new things to protect him, and let's see what that looks like in the year. But when he's on the field, you know what you're going to get. I do think Royce. I'm interested to see, like, the Royce Lewis hype train was, best player in the AL Central, like that kind of discussion. Bobby Witt kind of squashed that bug a little bit. Royce Lewis had those fun quotes. It was like, "I don't slump," and it was like,
Then he
okay,
slumped.
and then he
Then he slumped.
slumped. So
Yeah.
like, this is. I need Royce out there, and I need him for sure playing good. And I obviously think he has that. Every time we've seen him in a big game, he's come through. That bat just feels like it's in the zone forever. Um, Trev, you kind of, and hey, I hope I get to look back and yell at you, but you got me to tilt my head, man. A little bit with the projections, and a little bit we get sucked into the off season that it's, and maybe I guess I'm feeling a little Rays similarity. Like, okay, how far did the Twins really fall off from the Minnesota Twins teams that were winning a ton of ball games? I mean, the Twins won 87 in 2023. So I guess it's been a minute since, like Bomba Squad Twins. But in this division, again, like the talent, this is probably the most talented roster in the AL Central.
It is. Overall, just talent wise, this is the most talented roster. It's the most complete roster. I think that's a better word for it. Is more complete. Most
Okay.
complete. Um, Again, I think it's just getting, and it sounds easier. I mean, it is easier said than done, but or easy. What is that saying?
Easier
Easier
said
said
than
than
done.
done.
Yeah.
Just getting on the same page. Like, seriously, there were
Okay.
times last year we're just like, oh my gosh, like we're never going to hit the baseball again. We're never going to score any runs. The pitching was keeping us in games. Then it was like, dude, we're banging the ball around and the pitching was atrocious. Like, it just get on the same page, reel off some wins, get some breathing room, force the hand of the front office at the deadline. And we're talking about, a team that has, this team has a high ceiling. And I think the floor is also pretty high. Like, with health not being a factor, if these guys stay healthy, this is, I think, can be a very good baseball team.
Yeah, I guess where I'm getting hung up, like I know what Correa is, and it comes down to health. I know what Buxton is, it comes down to health. It feels like they have this hodgepodge of 25 to 28-year-olds that I don't truly know what they are. Like, you go look at Matt Wallner's numbers, and you're like, this guy is an elite player. There's been some games played stuff, but like Matt Wallner, you're 27. What's 162 look like? Trevor Larnack, uh, like if I want to throw Royce Lewis, Willie Castro, who I do want to give Willie Castro some love. I didn't,
Stud.
man. What was the stat? I think he played the only MLB player in history, MLB history, 25 appearances at 5 or more positions. I mean, for what he can bring day in, day out, that's a special ball player. And I know there's been some trade rumors there. That yeah, dude, Eddie Julian and Jose Miranda. I watched Miranda beat the hit streak, consecutive hit streak. Eddie Julian looked like he was going to be a problem in this league for a long time. That I've got so many guys in that pot that it starts turning Cincinnati Reds. Like, what's going to rise to the top, or what are we going to be looking at next year? Being like, whoa, I thought this was going to play out differently.
That's an interesting thing. Like, Reds or Twins. I think the Twins have a few more guys that have like proved it on
Yes.
their team than the Reds do, but I don't think their rosters are too dissimilar. Um, they have more on the way too. Like, Walker Jenkins is a huge prospect. I don't really expect him to really contribute this year, but Emmanuel Rodriguez is a guy who like we'll probably see in the outfield at some point, and he's like an absolute stud. So they have the ability to make some moves, and they have I don't want to say a ton of extra players that they can get rid of, but there are some positions where they can they can move from a position of strength. So I believe they're still trying to move Chris Paddock. Let's see if they can do that. Like if they can get Vasquez's contract off the book, they might try
Yeah.
to do that as well. They're in an interesting situation with ownership. They were said the team is for sale. They had the Phoenix Suns guys like kind of like ready to come in and buy the team, but I guess they've said no, and now they're looking at the White Sox. So it's what does that mean for like payroll and like
Right.
flexibility and stuff like that. It's interesting. This Twins team doesn't need a lot though. They just need to be consistent and they need to be healthy essentially.
I've got a dumb one for you.
Yeah, ask me something.
I'd love to see a lefty starting pitcher.
Yeah, 100%.
The only lefty on the team is Danny Colom right now. And even like the AAA starting pitchers are all righty. But
Yeah, they're all righty, but they have guys that can get lefties out too. So
sure,
that's you don't necessarily need lefties, but I know what you're saying. It
yeah,
would be nice. That was a big thing for them last year in the bullpen was who's our lefty guy.
right.
Theobar was kind of having a tough year. Then Funderburk and he was not necessarily reliable. So they needed some guy to do that, and Colomb seems to be the answer. But as the starters, they have a bunch of guys that can get lefties out, so it doesn't really bother me in that regard. But I see for balance why you'd want that. What else you got? Throw some questions at me because I feel like I tried to cover everything.
Yeah, I know. I guess what's the biggest concern? Because I think I know around where the over under is. Um, yeah, I want to walk back like most talented team in the division. Like I think the Royals, Tigers, and Guardians all of these teams are in the same bucket. That like, what's really the difference maker? Like I is it just health? Because it feels like when this team is healthy, they are there. But we're talking about Byron Buxton, who I know you hate hearing the term injury prone, but if there's anyone people would point at, like he would be a top 3 guy on the list. And then Correa, man, this is a guy who had 2 contracts turned down because people were scared of his ankles. That I I don't know.
I think I think it. I mean, yeah, health is what it is. What it is. Yes, every team has to deal with that. I think it's mentality. I do. I think if they adopt more of, and you might laugh at this, like a Midwest grinder mentality
Yes,
as a team, I think
yes.
that'll make them. It'll go far. Like I think, putting pressure on defenses. I think playing good defense, and then just better at bats, like striking out less, putting better at bats up and like passing the baton, like just simple old cliches. They got away from that.
Do you think they have an athleticism problem? Last in stolen bases.
Yeah,
I
that's not. They will not steal bases. They
the
don't steal
the
bases.
only guy projected to be in double digits is Willie Castro. They yeah, I coming off a few Yankees teams that lack serious athleticism. I don't know the way
Yes,
baseball's played now with the new stolen base rules and like not small ball becoming sexy, but like there's a lot of game winning plays that happen with athleticism, whether that's defense or base running. And if a team doesn't have that, it sets off a little red flag for me if they're not elite at the other stuff.
they're not going to steal bases. Like that is
Yeah.
not what's going to happen. They're going to have to be better at base running. They're going to have to, take an extra base when they can because they're not going to just get them when they get on base. Like they won't. It's just not part of the organizational philosophy. And a lot of it's roster based. Like they don't have a ton of burners on that team. So I would say that's definitely a weakness of theirs. So they have to really be, aware of situational running, and that's why I think they're really focusing on moving runners over and situational hitting because they know that trying to slug your way through a season just doesn't work. It doesn't. From time to time, you get on stretches, yeah, you can outslug people, but it's baseball, man. Like you have to be able to do things the right way. I think that's why they've made an emphasis there. Um, as far as like defense, I think they're pretty talented defensively. Like I don't think that is much of an issue. Royce Lewis at third, they talk about his throwing a lot there. I think that can be fixed. I think they're not going to blow you away with defensive prowess. They're just not. But
Right. I
being
guess
solid is what they want to be.
82 and 80 last year. How about this? One last one that's just a little a head tilt moment from me.
Okay.
Who on the Twins hits 30 homers this year?
Ooh, Matt Wallner, Royce Lewis, Matt Wallner, and they have a ton of guys with potential to do that.
I mean, you're right, but that's
I think 100% Matt Wallner 30 homers. There's no doubt. I think 100% if Royce Lewis plays a full season, 30 homers, no doubt. Like no doubt.
I understand why you're saying that, and they should. I would love to see it. I to do it for 162 or even 150. That's a big step for a lot of guys. And like you're saying, the Twins have three guys that feel like they could tap into that, but they haven't done it. So that's just putting that in the open, honest, like question marks category for these Twins.
I mean the 30 homer mark is probably those two guys, but I could see them having 7 dudes that hit 20. I think they have enough pop. I don't think that's like a problem for them.
I mean, I agree with you. I think day in day out, it's not a concern, but it's also I don't. There's something dumb to baseball to having that guy in the middle of the lineup that you're like, okay, set set
Matt
this.
Wallner could hit 40 this year. Like there he is. He's that guy.
Go. We've done it on Talking Baseball pages before. Go check out that guy's page because if he does do it for a full season, he has that. He has the exit velo, the Minnesota Moose. Um, yeah, I'm interested. If it feels like they're going to have another trade, like you mentioned, Christian Vasquez getting off that money. I'm wondering by the end of spring training, and hey, maybe the time this is out, we're recording this on the 23rd. I'm wondering if anything has changed with the Minnesota Twins. Um, anything else before we go to over under, Coach?
I think we did it.
The over under brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook. Minnesota, they got an NBA team. Been a funky year for them as well. Minnesota sports, man, that's for another time because you can go to the DraftKings Sportsbook and get in on the action. If you bet $5 and you are a new customer, you will get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use code TALKIN. Anything you could think of NBA wise, prop wise, player wise, points. That's one. DraftKings is the home of NBA player props. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use code TALKIN. Bet just $5 on any wager. Get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code TALKIN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Where's the over-under, Coach?
This is the highest one we've had so far.
Okay.
The DraftKings over-under win total is 84.5. That's the precipice of the playoffs right there.
Yeah.
Like you win 86 games, you have a shot at being the wild card team and possibly winning this division.
Man, we
You look
didn't
like you look like you have no idea right now.
Well, I feel a little rude because I don't want to be a coastal elitist. We didn't talk about the division too much. Like we said that they stack up. Yeah, I guess right now in my head I'm trying to separate how I truly feel about the Guards, Tigers, Royals, and Twins.
Last year, Guardians 92 wins, Detroit 86, Kansas City 86, Minnesota fell flat last 6 weeks. 82
Yeah, I think their last 30 games they were 10 and 20.
It was horrible.
Like what would we be saying right now if even if they were 15 and 15, I think they make the playoffs.
They should have made the playoffs. It was not good. It was not good.
Interesting. I think I have it.
Oh gosh. I know what I have. I don't love it either.
Okay.
I love it, but 3, 2, 1.
Under.
Yeah, I knew you were going under. I have to pick over. I think they have a chance to win the division, which will be higher than 84.5 games.
I don't know what I'm getting out of lefties. I don't know.
You're on the Royals Tigers train, recency bias, all these things. I think the Twins are going to be a lot better than they were last year.
Like they very well can be. I guess I'm interested to see their transactions going forward. Is this a team that's really going to try to get off money at some point? I don't know. At the same time, if the Twins win the division, I wouldn't be shocked. So I don't know. I was talking myself into the Twins, and I kind of had to get you out of my brain. And maybe we just go Oppo on the Twins every year. I think
we
that
might. I think
that
you're as a Yankee fan, I
might-
understand why you have no respect for the Twins. I get it.
some serious bully ball stuff.
Yeah, which is
Um,
crazy because the Yankees are soft. Change your facial hair policy like a bunch of softies, dude. What is that about? We
Here we
get
are.
into that on a different episode.
Here we are. Send Christian Vasquez home. We need a backup catcher. Hey, Minnesota, everyone, let us know what we missed. I would say you guys know that team better, but Coach Trev, he's
Hey,
locked.
let me know if I'm missing. I don't think I did.
He's
Now we're on to
locked.
40 homers. Boom.
Brooks Lee, who are you? Thank you guys. We'll be back with our 18th team coming up soon.